Hello whisky fans, Ralphie here. Welcome to review number 1134, extras for extra content, extra perspective, extra stuff. And I'm going to give you some very engaging and original extra stuff because I'm taking you to Antarctica. And we'll start by saying that if you want to visit Antarctica, and it can be arranged, you will have to provide substantial personal details so that you can be checked. It'll cost you a lot of money, and you'll be invited to spend 99% of your time there seeking heat, warmth and shelter from anywhere you can, whilst peering at penguins and a few seals through binoculars. The Antarctic is the least populated landmass on planet Earth, and the intention of the authorities is to keep it that way. It's not just the terrible inhospitable weather and the dreadfully low temperatures, and the very high winds and all the rest of it. It really is a very inhospitable place, and it's only for those who are rough and tough enough to go there, particularly about 100 years ago. Well, it's over 100 years ago now, when Ernest Shackleton went there with a small team, modestly small team. The figures do vary depending on which source you get your information from, but he did request, as part of the stocks and provisions for his expedition, which was to be the first to reach the South Pole, which he nearly did, but due to what could only be described as not having the best of gear, that's what it boiled down to. They didn't make it, and to his credit, Shackleton didn't lose any of his men, unlike other expeditions that we don't hear so much about. It was very popular in Victorian times in Britain that you had your superheroes, your stiff upper lip brigade, and I'm not trying to be demeaning about it. I'm just trying to reflect the culture of the time, where men, not always men, but mainly men, would go off and do heroic things and set a good example of why civilization matters. And by the way, it does. But sometimes it could go a little bit over the top, which has certainly happened on a few occasions with British empirical conquest. I have a bottle of whiskey here. I've just reviewed it. I gave it 85 out of 100. It's a blended Scotch called McKinley's, and it comes in this wooden box. And as you know, I'm not a huge fan of disingenuous packaging because inevitably we're paying for it. The customer always pays for everything, and don't you forget it. But in this occasion, there's context here, because when you are around Scotch whisky, you notice repeat patterns. You notice that there's a new commemorative bottling for this anniversary, that anniversary, whatever anniversary. There's always loads of stuff for fee seal, frequently overpriced and sometimes very poor quality, surprisingly poor quality considering the resources that Scotch whisky industry has to bottle good stuff. I honestly don't know why they are so careless. I really don't. Particularly when people talk about it, buy less, or simply decide not to attend future fee seals. But hey, it's part of the contrarian nature of the Scots. But this is a wooden chest-like bottle box. It has a little Hessian bag in it with a replacement cork, which is not needed because the soft cork in the reproduction bottle of an original bottle from over 100 years ago, which was salvaged from Shackleton's cabin by a New Zealand academic research team. They sent 3 bottles to Scotland, and these bottles were examined by the brand who currently own the McKinley label, which are White and Mackay, and they got to reproducing that whisky with the whiskies that they had. Now, back in the day, it was primarily Glenmore that went into this. And there's not so much Glenmore around today. However, to White and Mackay's credit, they sourced a barrel, and so there is Glenmore in this, which of course will be pretty old now, because Glenmore Distillery has not been around for a long, long time. There's other whiskies in it. Allegedly there's Dalmore in it, okie dokie, and as well as older whisky, there's younger whisky in it, and you can clearly see that Richard Pattison, the blender, has had a field day because he's probably been left to get on without much interference from the grey faces in the boardroom to actually do something playful with some decent quality ingredients and create an interesting whisky. Well, I tell you what, mission accomplished, job done, well done, Richard. This is a delightful whisky. Although I have to say, when I was giving my tasting notes in review number 1134, I really wasn't getting the full phenolics because I'm currently finishing a course of antibiotics, which really, I now know from experience, clips the wings of phenolic components. So within this box, there's 2 little additional features. One is that if you send some personal details to a website, they will email you a facsimile of the typewritten order from Ernest Shackleton to Charles McKinley, Chas McKinley. Chas is short for Charles, ordering 25 cases of McKinley's whisky. And in this booklet, the endearing spirit is called, righto. And this is me with my reading glasses on. The enduring spirit. It gives you a little pamphlet walkthrough with pictures from location, and it shows the Nimrod, his ship. And right in the centre, you've got this lovely little sepia reproduction, although it is full colour, of the interior of Shackleton's cabin in Antarctica. Now, if you are contemplating buying this bottle at auction, let me give you advice. You go for the inaugural edition, this one, the one with the wooden box, right? The one with the wooden box and that label, because it's far better quality than subsequent inferior mock-ups just because the money was there, which is a real shame that they do that, you know, they kind of overspin to just get the money in. It's a little bit tacky and tasteless and unprofessional, and that's why I mention it. So is that whisky companies know. Keep it tasteful, keep it dignified, because these sort of things actually help hold up the ongoing and enduring interest in these sort of bottlings at auction. And I've seen people buying these for less than £100 a bottle, Palmer price. Now, there's good whisky in that. It's a blend, in my opinion, a blend of malts and 100% malts. So that's just my opinion, right? Just my opinion. And it's been really well composed. It's good stuff, absolutely worth the money. And to add to that, if you do buy a bottle and you do choose to open it and you've got the box there, which is actually, it's a keepable box, because sure, it's got for sanitary reasons, it's got wood shavings in rather than straw, traditional straw, which is just a way of keeping things tidy. It's got the two little leaflets. But see, if you were to buy a bottle of this, do you know what you do? And it's something that I do quite often, is when I look at a bottle, I go onto Google Maps and start with the location. Now, in this instance, it's not the location of the distillery for this original bottling, which is basically Inverness and the surrounding area. But it's Antarctica, it's Ross Island, Antarctica. And you go in on Google Maps, you zoom in to this absolute wilderness. And you will find marked on Google Maps Shackleton's Cabin. So you could do a search for Shackleton's Cabin, and it will take you there in real time, and you see something truly extraordinary, remarkable and exceptional. What you see is some growing vintage history from a bygone era and an age which is well past us now, but you see it completely intact. The cabin is a large wooden framed structure overlapped with heavily painted, canvassed, looks like corrugated iron. The roof is pinned down. The large chimney coming up from the enormous solid biofuel stove is all pinned down with wires deep into the earth to anchor the whole thing down, and the outside is surrounded by discarded wooden cases. Inside, you are seeing quite literally a living museum. Now, let me assure you, maltmates, if this was anywhere else on the planet, more accessible, here's what would happen. The true adventurers would arrive. They'd spend a bit of time there. They would feel the frequency of the place and the experience. They would leave things as they are, and then they would move on and take nothing away but a few photographs. Someone later would be inspired by these photographs, and they would come to do some content for their YouTube channel or Instagram, or to do some research for a traditional media documentary. And then these folk would turn up, and they too would be respectful. However, they'd start to leave a little bit of litter. A discarded temporary toilet structure, toilet paper, wet wipes, always a classic. But by and large, they'd walk away and leave the structure and everything in it respectfully intact. But after them would be coming the speculators, the people that turn up with money on their mind. How much can I get? In fact, even before I go, I'm going to get a client and say, I tell you what, you pay for my expedition, you pay me money, and I'll bring this all back to you as salvage. And rich people are frequently stupid people and very avaricious. Because of the corruption of their soul, they know they've only got the time on earth. They've got to make the most of it. They're going to struggle to ascend beyond because of their investment in their own karma. And therefore they've got to endure samsara for goodness knows how many aeons before they can rise again towards the source of life and the light beyond. And that's the way it goes. So they come down and they they hash and they bash, and then they decide, well, I'm here anyway, I'm all fueled up, I'm all fired up, I've got my money, I'm going to take some LSD. Right. I'm going to smoke a joint. And half an hour later, the whole place is burning to the ground and everything in it, because once one person's got it, as soon as they destroy it, nobody else can get it. And that, malt mates, is the theme of human behaviour. I'm not judging, I'm observing, but you got to be honest about it. Got to keep it real. Choose your company in life wisely. Good company will help you ascend. Bad company only ever drags you down. And so there's the Antarctica, a human-free place. Hence the lack of pollution, hence the lack of demands in the environment, and hence the demand of lots of infrastructure and all the rest of it. The stuff going on in Antarctica, a lot of stuff. If you want to know a little bit more, do some research on Admiral Byrd. That's Byrd spelt B-Y-R-D. If you love a rabbit hole, and my goodness, we're spoiled for choice, that's a good one to go down. Hope you enjoyed this. Oh, missed a bit. I enjoyed presenting this. It feels a little bit like a little bit of a different narrative, and it's just good to have that sort of that broad spectrum in this channel. See you soon. Bye bye.